While DHS is unfunded, Department of Homeland Security unfunded, FEMA unfunded, Hawaii just got hit with $1 billion disaster and nobody was ready. Not FEMA, not the governor, not the state government, not even the people of Hawaii was ready. But I'll tell you who was prepared: the insurance companies. Hawaii just got hit with the worst flooding in over 20 years. $1 billion in damage, over 400 homes destroyed, 230 people pulled from floodwater, children airlifted by military helicopters. All of this evening on the Michael Lindell Experience. Good evening, everyone. Excited you all are here for another episode of the Michael Lindell Experience. Today, guys, I want to bring a story to your attention that is impacting so many lives in the state of Hawaii. There's a 120-year-old dam that nearly collapsed, the one that triggered evacuation orders for over 5,000 people. And this particular dam is owned by Dole Food Company. Now, it's very important to understand this dam, and for so many reasons. The state has known it was dangerous since 1978. Army Corps of Engineers had reported it. They sent Dole 4 deficiency notices and fined them all. In 2023, the legislature passed a law to acquire the dam from Dole and appropriate the money to buy and to repair it. As of last Friday, when the evacuation sirens went off, the state still hadn't completed the acquisition. 48 years of warnings, a law on the books, money in the account, and the transfer wasn't done. That's how infrastructure fails. Not all at once, one delayed report, one unpaid fine, one incomplete transfer, until the day it actually matters. And this is just one of 132 dams across the state. Most built for sugarcane plantations over a century ago. Nearly upgraded, never upgraded. Still holding water over neighborhoods in 2026. The last time one of those dams fell was on Kauai, 2006, 7 people unalive. Hawaii has been governed by Democrats for nearly an entire modern era. Democrat governor, Democratic legislature. No Republican governor since 2010. These failures didn't appear overnight. They compounded over the same leadership for decades. And now they're colliding all at once. But state failure is the only just one layer of it all. Because even if Hawaii had been fully prepared, the federal system that was supposed to back them isn't functioning either. On Tuesday, Governor Green, a Democrat, formally submitted a disaster declaration request to President Trump, a Republican. Now, I want to be clear about this declaration because it's very important. Okay? Green's official disaster declaration press release clearly shows on March 21st, 2026. That's how disaster relief in this country works. You get a letter, you have to file it with the government and say, hey, this is what's actually pressing. This is the issue that we're experiencing and we need federal help. That's how disaster relief work in this country. Now, the federal government cannot just step in until the governor formally acts. The governor can't formally act until damage assessments are documented. That process takes days. Green declared a state of emergency immediately, activated the National Guard. The White House reached out preemptively before the governor even asked. But here's where the system breaks. FEMA is funded through the Department of Homeland Security. And DHS is the last unfunded department in the federal government. Has been for 40 days now. That's the part nobody connects. FEMA doesn't have its own funding switch. It's wired through DHS. So when DHS becomes a political battlefield, FEMA becomes collateral damage. And here is a screenshot of FEMA flood insurance rate map. The House passed DHS funding twice. Bipartisan both times. The Senate killed it both times. 60 votes needed. Republicans have only 53. Democrats said no. Their demand changes how ICE conducts enforcement against people who are in this country illegally. Warrants before entering private property, mask off during arrest. Here's how the leverage works. You don't hold up something nobody needs. You hold up something everyone needs. Everyone. DHS funds TSA, the Coast Guard, cybersecurity, and FEMA. Of course, FEMA. Every day the shutdown continues, the pressure on both sides builds. Over 400 TSA agents have already quit. Airport lines stretching across the country. Time as a weapon. Make the other side feel it until they come to the table. That's not dysfunction. That's strategy. And both sides know exactly what they're doing. But on the flip side of that, people are impacted like never before.
It was a scary situation for us. Pretty much lost things, lost everything. I mean, got us, yeah, but everything else, what? Yeah. It's our house, it's our home up there.
This weekend, the president made a countermove. Republican senators were ready for an off-ramp. Fund everything except ICE enforcement. Then use reconciliation, a budget process that only needs 51 votes, no Democrats required, to fund ICE separately. Clean exit. Reopens FEMA immediately. Trump's own staff brought him the plan Sunday night. He rejected it. Instead, he told Republicans, don't make any deal unless Democrats also pass the Save America Act. The Save America Act is proof of citizenship to register to vote, photo ID to cast a ballot. It polls at 80% support. Most Americans assume this is already the law. It isn't. Same leverage principle. Flip back on Democrats. They need DHS reopened too. Clearly, their districts have airports, TSA workers, FEMA communities. Trump added a price tag to their exit. You want DHS funded? Pass election integrity first. It forces a public choice. Vote for something 80% of the country supports, or keep blocking disaster relief to avoid it. That's how you turn your opponent's leverage into your own. That's not a legislative play. That's a midterm play. And it's running in real time while Hawaii shovels mud. Now think about what's actually being weighed here. On one side of the scale, provisions to protect how enforcement is conducted against people who are in this country illegally. Warrants, mask, due process for non-citizens during deportation operations. On the other side, disaster relief funding for American citizens who just lost their homes. Senate Democrats decided the first thing is worth holding up than the second thing. And right now, a Democratic governor in their own state is begging for the help. They're blocking. Think about that. The State Emergency Relief Program, Green announced $1,500 per applicant against $1 billion in damage, against homes worth over $700,000. That's what this state can offer its own. Without federal support, it's not even close. And you will notice something. Not a single Democrat in Washington is calling out the handling of this disaster. Think about that. They're not. Why? No press conferences, no demands, no outrage about families in the mud. Ask yourself why that silence exists. Why? Senate Democrats are blocking DHS funding to protect enforcement provisions for people here illegally. At the same time, refusing to pass a bill that simply requires proof of citizenship to vote. At the same time, a Democratic governor in their own state is asking for the disaster relief they're holding up. Now ask yourself, what all three of those positions have in common? While both sides calculate, here's what it's actually costing. Standard homeowner insurance does not cover floods. Not in Hawaii. Not in most of the country. It is explicitly excluded. You need a separate flood policy. It has a 30-day waiting period. You cannot buy it after the water arrives. Every family on the North Shore without separate coverage just lost everything. Their insurance company owes them nothing. Their own lifeline is FEMA. Maximum payout, $43,600. Average check over the last decade, $3,500. Medium home, over $700,000. 6 cents on the dollar. That's safety net. Most people go their full lives assuming the government will catch them if anything falls apart. This is what the catch actually looks like. And it gets worse. Because even the families who did carry flood insurance, the one who did everything right, are finding out it might not save them. Insurance companies are denying claims right now under something called the Earth Movement Clause. Most homeowners have never even heard of it. Here's exactly how it works. The flood comes, the water saturates the soil, the ground shifts, your foundation cracks, your walls separate, your house sinks. The flood caused it all. And the insurance company says that's not flood damage. That's earth movement. Denied. The standard flood insurance policy excludes earth movement, even if the earth movement was directly caused by the flood. Read that again. You paid for flood insurance. The flood came. The flood moved the ground under your house. Your house cracked. And the policy you've been paying for says that's not covered. Families in Hawaii right now are getting denial letters based on a clause they didn't know existed and a policy they thought would protect them. They're filing appeals, working with Hawaii Insurance Division, fighting a technicality where their homes sit in mud. Congress knows this is a problem. There's a bill right now, the National Flood Insurance Program Reauthorization Act, with a section specifically called Earth Movement Fix. It hasn't passed. So the families who had no flood insurance gets nothing from their carrier. The families who did have flood insurance are getting denied on a technicality. And the only backup, FEMA, is shut down, understaffed, and offering 6 cents on the dollar. 3 layers of failure stacked on top of each other. Every single one of them was preventable. And the National Flood Insurance Program, the only federal program that sells flood coverage to homeowners, is run by FEMA. During the shutdown, new policies and renewals are paused. That's the gap nobody talks about. The system is designed so the government insures what the private market won't. But the program that does it is wired through the same department that's shut down over immigration and voter ID. While a man in Walu bangs on his neighbor's doors in the dark because the water is rising and nobody told them to leave. Go deeper. FEMA was already redrawing Oahu's flood maps. They studied streams that had never been evaluated, some running directly through the neighborhoods that just flooded. The data was finished. The maps were finalized in December. They take effect on June 10th, 77 days or so from now. The government knew these areas were dangerous. They just hadn't told the homeowners yet. Unbelievable. That's how bureaucracy becomes a hazard. Not because anyone chooses to withhold it, because the system that delivers warnings wasn't built to move faster than the thing it's warning you about. When those maps go live, homeowners in the newly classified zones with federal mortgages will be required to carry flood insurance for the first time. If they don't comply within 45 days, the bank places a policy. Banks picks the term, banks picks the price. The homeowner has no say. Families who just lost their homes will be told to buy insurance for a risk the government had already identified, but hadn't announced, from an agency that's currently shut down. This is the same state that lost over 100 lives and 2,000 properties in Maui wildfires 3 years ago. Recovery still isn't complete. FEMA's temporary housing for Maui survivors were set to expire in February. Extensions were requested. Last update, still under review. One island losing disaster housing from the last catastrophe. Another island entering the pipeline for the next one. Same state, same party in charge, same gaps, weaker federal backstop this time. FEMA lost 6,000 employees in a single year. Only 12% of incident management staff available last hurricane season. Half the senior leadership empty. 53 staff deployed to Hawaii right now. Just 53. For $1 billion disaster. Those cuts were made during the quietest season in a decade. The math worked when nothing went wrong. That's the bet the system made. But churches can't rewrite flood maps. Volunteers can't issue insurance policies. Neighbors can't rebuild a hospital in Maui. Those things require a federal agency that functions. And right now, that agency isn't a lifeline. It's leverage. A Democratic governor asking a Republican president for help. Senate Democrats blocking the funding that delivers it. The president holding out for election integrity. And American families standing in volcanic mud, wondering when someone is going to stop negotiating and start helping. That's the game. That's what it actually cost. I want you all to like, subscribe, share this with your family and friends. The disaster that's happening right now in Maui is far beyond our comprehension.